I am an English teacher. I tell my students that language is a fingerprint. You can swap a word out with a thesaurus. You cannot disguise the shape of how a particular brain builds a sentence and decides where to stop. Road instead of highway. Morning instead of daylight. Stayed instead of waited. That is not style. That is somebody trying to stand behind a door that is too narrow for them. I spent 7 days building a file. 47 emails with timestamped attachments across 3 years. 11 drafts with version history. The unread message with the agent's address on it. And one more thing, which I did not tell anyone about for 4 days, because I was not certain it existed. In the 4th year of writing the book, I registered the manuscript with the United States Copyright Office. Not because I thought anyone would steal it. Because I was teaching a unit on intellectual property to a room of 17-year-olds and I wanted a real example instead of a worksheet. I put the form on the projector. I filled it in while they watched. What I could not remember, 9 years later, was whether I had finished it. I could see myself filling in the form. I could not see myself paying the fee. There is a version of that afternoon where the bell rings and I close the laptop and never think about it again. I submitted a records search request on a Monday. The office replies when it replies. I taught 4 days of Steinbeck with that sitting in my chest. It came back Thursday afternoon. Registered. Maya Adizo say. 5 years and 4 months before her publication date. A classroom demonstration was the strongest document in my case. I hired an intellectual property litigator named Sandra Park, who runs a small practice out of an office on Church Street downtown. Someone at Vanderbilt told me she does not take cases she does not intend to finish. I laid it out on her table. The comparison pages. The registration certificate. The unread email. She read for a long time without saying anything. Then she asked how many words had been changed. I said 3, in a passage of 212. She did not react the way I expected. She put the page down and said, in the flattest voice I have ever heard from a person who was pleased, then they will settle. But not quickly, and not before they have tried to make you tired. The cease and desist went to Cornerstone Literary Press on a Tuesday, certified mail. Sandra told me not to contact Carol under any circumstances. That was the hardest instruction I have ever followed. For 11 days, nothing. Then the countermove. Cornerstone's legal team did not apologize and did not negotiate. They wrote that digital files are trivially altered, that metadata proves nothing, and that Carol Whitfield was in possession of handwritten notebooks predating my employment at Caldwell by more than a decade. I want to be honest about what that did to me. I believed it. For 2 days, I believed it completely. Because Carol had published before me. Because I had watched her carry a leather notebook into faculty meetings for 4 years. Because a woman who steals a novel is a monster, and a woman who wrote something similar first is just a coincidence I would have to live inside for the rest of my career. I sat in the second bedroom and read my own drafts looking for anything I might have absorbed from her. Anything I could have taken without knowing. That is the part nobody warns you about. They do not just take the work. They make you audit yourself for a crime you did not commit. And while I was doing that, Caldwell found out. Not from me. A parent works at a firm that does business with Cornerstone, and the filing is a public document, and Nashville is smaller than it looks. I was asked to come in and explain why a former department chair and a current teacher were named in the same federal complaint. Nobody accused me of anything. That was somehow worse. It was a conversation conducted entirely in the conditional tense. I taught every day of it. 94 students, 5 periods, 11 months. In April, a girl in my 3rd period raised her hand and asked, carefully, whether it was true that somebody had stolen my book. I said the matter was in front of a court and I could not discuss it. Then I asked the class to open to page 90. Sandra was unbothered. She said notebooks are a stalling instrument, not a defense, and that people who actually have them produce them in week 1. Then she stopped arguing about handwriting altogether. She subpoenaed the publisher's typesetting files and Carol's hard drives. Not the words. The metadata. The creation date of the document. The wall came down 11 days later. Cornerstone offered a settlement on day 28, wrapped in a non-disclosure agreement that would have made the whole thing legally invisible. The number was larger than 2 years of my salary. I want to be truthful. I considered it. I sat at my kitchen table with a mortgage and a teacher's paycheck, and I considered it for most of a night. I signed a version with one clause added. A formal acknowledgement, on Cornerstone letterhead, that the manuscript published under Carol Whitfield's name derived entirely from source material authored by me. Print runs ceased worldwide. The book was pulled. I signed on a cold Thursday morning in downtown Nashville and walked out onto Church Street and took the first full breath I had taken in 11 months. The legal fees came to slightly more than the settlement covered. I do not regret that. I want it on the record because people assume a woman who wins a case like this comes out ahead, and I want to be accurate about what winning cost. Carol never called. No letter. No message through a lawyer. Nothing. I know the story she tells herself, because it is the only story available to her. That she absorbed an influence. That the lines blurred. That she helped shape a voice and the voice came out sounding like her. I teach that line to teenagers every year. It is not blurry. It is a hard bright wall and you know the exact moment you go over it. Here is what I won. I finished my novel. I sat back down in the booth on 12th Avenue South and I wrote the ending I had been circling for 9 years, and a small imprint in New York bought it, and it came out in September with my name on the spine. Nobody reviewed the book. They reviewed the case. Every notice, every profile, every interview request. The theft is the story. The novel is the thing the story happens to be about. I wrote 7 years of 3 women in a Tennessee town and I published a court document with a plot. There is a shelf at Fairmark on West End Avenue where it sits now. I have watched people pick it up. They turn it over, and they read the back, and I can see the exact half-second where they recognize it. Not the title. The lawsuit. I still tell my students on the first day that the hardest thing a writer can do is finish. I say it exactly the way I always said it. They have no idea it means something different to me now. And there is one more thing, which is the only part one have never said out loud to anyone. I cannot read my own opening anymore. I get 4 sentences in and my head supplies her words instead of mine. Road. Morning. Stayed. 9 years of my own sentences, and 3 of them are hers now, permanently, in the only copy that was ever going to matter. I got my name back. I did not get my book back. She changed 3 words. I have not been able to unhear them. That is what she kept. They never knew I knew.